welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com.
What's going on, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined every Friday by my main man, Derek Bell. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, we're diving heavy into the linebacker group. I feel like we're a little report on the Steelers possibly gaining some traction at inside linebacker at the NFL draft, where they could go, how far back they can actually fall to make that a comfortable decision, and then a reunion that might fit the Steelers a little bit better than the ones everybody want to talk about, plus some cornerback talk, because you can't have a podcast with a team that needs a cornerback without talking about the cornerback. But first, it's freezing cold outside. It's not enjoyable at all. I went for a run this morning and thought I was going to die. It was not enjoyable. How are you, my man?
Doing well, man. It was man, I got really happy when it was like 70 degrees in the middle of the week or earlier this week.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I was able to run outside and it was like, man, this is heaven. I could use a couple more days of this. And of course, it didn't take very long. Like 2-3 days later, and it's below freezing. I walk out of the house this morning and there's freaking snowflakes falling on the ground. I'm like, dude, what is going on, man?
Yeah, literally the whole run. I'm just like getting hit with flurries, and I'm like, what are we doing? And Thursday or Wednesday, when it was like super nice out, I was having dinner and I was telling my fiance, I was like, yo, it's gonna be freezing cold on Friday. And she looked it up and she was like, no, it's a low of 29, but it's a high of like 60. And I was like, oh, that's pretty nice. Didn't even come. The high didn't even exist. I don't know why they didn't just say it's going to be 20 degrees, guys. There's no guessing on a high number. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, but it's February. Winter starts in like a week, and then we got 3 more months.
I want some good weather for the combine. That's what I want.
Yeah, Indy weather, if it would be nice, would be super cool. I don't know what Indy's like. This time, last year was nice. Last year was good enough.
It was really nice. It was really nice.
Yeah, would very much so enjoy that. You've been down south or out west a little bit. I've been down south a little bit. So we've got our fair share of weather in this winter. But again, we got another 6 months before it gets sunny outside. So can only do so much. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Steelers could make some quote-unquote draft movement for an inside linebacker come the draft, obviously. It's a questionable decision, I think, from us over the last couple of weeks to approach the inside linebacker group in the NFL draft. I know you and Nick have not been super high on the class during your pod talks, and then me and you here have talked about, well, maybe Noah Swell isn't that great. Trenton Simpson, his former safety, maybe he can't tackle as well as you need him to. Drew Sanders, is he a first-round pick or not? When you look at the grand scheme of things, do you think that is an actual option for the Steelers? Do you say, no, you cannot do that, that's a bad move, or can you make it work somehow?
It's not a direction that I would be in favor of going, especially in like round one. But I don't think we can rule it out for the Steelers. I mean, you look at the inside linebackers that they've taken just in recent years over the past, 8, 9, 10 years. They took Shazier in the middle of the first round, right around where they're picking this year, and they traded up for Devin Bush. So it's a position that historically, they valued. Lawrence Timmons, former first-round pick, that was under Mike Tomlin as well. So is it the direction that I would prefer them going? Absolutely not. But is it possible? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's possible.
So what makes it doable? You know what I mean? Like, how far back can you drop if you're the Steelers? Like, if they selected somebody at 32, are you okay with that, or do you still think that's a bad move?
It would depend on who it is, but I mean, I would feel better about it than taking any of these guys at 17. I think the best player that I've watched inside linebacker wise, of the guys that I think are going to get taken high, is Drew Sanders from Arkansas. Sanders is a former edge rusher, utility, special teams guy at Alabama, transferred to Arkansas this past season. Sanders has incredible athleticism and pretty good processing for it being like really his only year playing like off-ball linebacker. Yeah. I love the way he moves in space. Like he has a really good frame to him that could stand to add a lot more like muscle. I love what he offers as a pass rusher. He is a former like kind of edge guy, But, Arkansas, they blitzed him a lot. They kind of lined him up all over the formation. He was able to, kind of create some havoc in that regard. He has some like legit pass rushing moves and some bend to him, which is rare for that position. The big holdup for me is right now, Sanders needs to get stronger and he needs to be able to take on blocks better at the point of attack and shed and not get like just swallowed up by offensive linemen. And probably not, not that it's not fixable, but he's an awful tackler. Atrocious.
Wow, that's actually why is that? How is that not? How does that not just remove it? You're an inside linebacker.
It
tackle.
It can be fixed. I've seen guys, improve their tackling over time. Some of that is just that, like his frame right now, I think they list him at like 230 pounds, but he's like 6'4", 6'5" is what they list him at. So it's kind of like thinner for a linebacker of that height. But guys just constantly just running through his arm tackles, like bouncing off of him, falling forward. So that's a little bit concerning on tape. But there's a lot of athletic traits to like. But if they took Sanders at 17, is that something where I'm going to be like doing jumping jacks? At this point, no. Based on like the film that I've seen, yeah. If people in the comments or people watching this, if y'all have a tape that y'all think I should go take a look at, I watched 2 or 3 games already. But if y'all have a game that y'all liked, feel free to hit me with it. But I don't see like top 15 player in him just right now.
If you can't tackle, you're not a top 15 player. It's pretty point
blank
there. I know. Isn't that the problem with Trenton Simpson too? He's converted safety, so they say he can't really shed blocks. So
Simpson for me he's worse in the regard of terms of like block deconstruction. He is a total project there. I watched 2 more games over the weekend, and I don't know that I saw him get off a block and make a tackle, like make an actual stop. The athleticism, incredible. You mentioned like he's played a lot like in the overhang or like he's played a lot in the slot for Clemson. There's those Isaiah Simmons kind of comparisons with him and how well he moves in space. He covers a ton of ground, long strides. He has more, I think, experience in pass coverage than Sanders, although Sanders is fine there based on the couple games that I watched. It's just for Simpson, like I have a hard time getting on board with linebackers just because in recent years, this is something I learned through my own evaluation of my evaluations. When I have fallen in love with linebackers that struggle at the point of attack and can't shed blocks, I have gotten burned. So I stopped
you write them off and they don't need to be.
No, as in like I used to like be a lot more gotcha. Like when the NFL was moving to like these smaller, faster inside linebackers. Yeah. I felt like I started to value athletic traits and speed, athleticism, quickness, burst, explosion, like that type of stuff, like more because I thought that's where the NFL was kind of leaning. But then I watched like a bunch of guys get drafted early in the portions of the draft over the last like 4 or 5 years that can't get off blocks. And those guys just aren't valuable. They aren't as valuable as like we think that they should be. Like a good example of guys, that don't blow it up at the combine, but are still heck of a like inside linebackers are like the Chiefs backers, like Nick Bolton, Willie Gay. Both of those guys didn't test. They didn't test very well. They played maybe faster than they tested, but both of those guys can like legitimately play the run. And I think it's almost become an underrated, I think, trait for inside linebackers is like how well they take on blocks at the point of attack. Like, yeah, you want to keep them clean, but if you're consistently, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 getting just swallowed up and you can't get off blocks, it's not that appealing to me, at least in terms of like taking a guy in the first round. It's just not that appealing.
No, I especially in this draft, and there's not like a ton of, oh my gosh, talent that's going to be there at 17, but I don't know. You can't block. You're coming off of Devin Bush. Okay. So you're looking for 2 things. Can you play physical? But you can't do that if you can't shed blocks. And can you cover the pass? and apparently both of them could do that, but you got to do one trick pony. Who do you see? Who do you see Simpson and I guess Sanders? Like, do you have like NFL comparisons to these guys?
I don't personally. I try to stay. I know like the comps are everybody's like favorite thing. I
Yeah.
don't do a lot of comps. If I drop a comp, just know that I feel like extremely confident in the comparison. But I've seen Tremaine Edmonds stuff with Sanders. I don't know that I'm really 100% on board with that, but I could see a similar trajectory with Sanders where you have to be very intentional about the ways that you use him early, and there's probably going to be some growing pains in that regard with his development, but I think long term he has the traits to develop into like a really impactful player, similar to how Edmonds was kind of for Buffalo the last like year and a half, 2 years.
That's so tough though, because the Steelers defense will talk all day and night about how they're ready now and how this is the defense and this is the team and let's go win in the next couple of years. And then to say, oh, okay, but we're going to use our first round pick on a guy that will be a development piece.
I think that's even tougher. Like I get it from your perspective, and like guys like in the locker room are obviously like they're in there to compete each and every year. I think it's tougher for fan bases. Fan
Yes.
bases love instant gratification with prospects.
Yeah,
And
dude.
they
Do you think
just
I'm talking
do
about
not.
the team? Screw the team.
Yeah,
I want me. I'm talking
yeah,
about
they
me.
don't have any type of patience in terms of like development. A good another like non-Steelers related like topic, but this is something I was talking about with my buddy, who does Raiders stuff, and we were talking about Anthony Richardson. He was tweeting about it, and people in the fan base were saying like he's not ready. The accuracy is too big of a problem. He's a year away. We don't have time. Like, I don't want to waste time on this dude. And it's like, I told him, like, everybody wants the next Josh Allen. Like, you want the alien quarterbacks with the unbelievable traits, but until it's time to actually develop those guys, because Josh Allen didn't come in being Josh Allen. Like, you had to get him there. And like a lot of these guys that come in like that, like the reward is at the end, but you got to stick around through the process. And I see this all the time, with Steelers fans, especially fans that don't follow the draft super closely. So they're not really in tune with like what the rest of the league does or anything like that. I just think it's, fool's gold. People expect guys to just come in and dominate year one. And like, it just doesn't happen. Like more often than not, it does not happen. Even for like first round picks, you gotta require some patience.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how much patience I'm given, but I do agree with that. You got to stay calm. I think I did, I'm proud of myself this year with how I handled that stuff. Most years I'm pretty bad, you know me. But
I think we
I
can
could
all
see a
fall.
guy.
I think we all fall victim to it. I just think like
Yeah,
in
with these
general,
guys though, sometimes it's yeah. The upside is worth it. I know what you're saying. And
yeah.
maybe that is the truth. You know what I mean? And it's with 17, like that's a tough call because you got to look at it like most first round picks don't make it. Like,
Yeah.
like you have a much harder chance of finding a superstar in the first round than you do pretty much the rest of the draft, because at least that's what history has told us. So to send a guy and say, hey, look, well, this guy's ready now. I don't know. A lot of the time, I mean, I think Van Der Esch out of Dallas, who's now a free agent, is a perfect example. That dude was supposed to be an instant star, like the best thing to ever touch the football field. And then when that didn't happen early, or like it did happen a little bit early, and then it kind of faded off and people completely wrote him off until this past year. Our boy Phantom TV has one for us. Why does nobody talk about JL Skinner? He reminds me a lot of Edmonds. He's a safety, right? Out of Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
Does he play linebacker or is he just safety?
He is I'll call him a hybrid. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, he can play box safety, but he's not a like super. We'll just say like versatile guy that I would want like playing a lot of like center field, or I think
Yeah.
he could play some two high shells and stuff. But I really like I do like Skinner. Skinner was a guy that I've talked about even going back to last summer. Devin Jackson was like the first person I saw on Skinner, so shout out to Devin. But he was kind of the first person that put me on to him. I know he had a rough early portion of the Senior Bowl. I'm not really sure where his stock's going to be. I think opinions on him are going to kind of vary, but yeah, I mean, I like him though. He's a solid
Oh, he
player.
was at the Senior Bowl.
A lot of
remember him.
plays with like an enforcer mentality. There's I think someone on my timeline when I first heard of him was dropping some like poor man.
Dude, he had 7 tackles for loss last season.
Yeah. But they were saying like poor man's Cam Chancellor. I think that some of those hits that I've seen him make certainly match up with that. So,
dude, a poor man's Cam Chancellor is not bad, especially in this day and age of what the inside linebacker really needs. I mean, like, can you play him every single time? No, but I mean that's worked out in the past. I mean, even in smaller versions, like Mark Barron, big dude, thumper, moved into inside linebacker, made a career out of it. You know?
Yeah, I think you need to see one thing that I wanted to see more was Skinner that I didn't really see in the clips that I was able to watch at the Senior Bowl. Is just I want to see if he's going to be able to defend different body types in the slot. That's like big for me in terms of projecting like safeties, even guys like him who are probably going to be more sub-package defenders early on in their career.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, or I guess I'm not totally convinced that he's fluid enough to be able to stick with like smaller slot receivers. I think he can cover tight ends. I definitely think the length and his frame will offer him the ability to do that with time. I just not sure that slot receiver is going to be some of those shifty guys. I think they're going to give him a lot of trouble.
Is he an option to move inside or no?
I think he's too skinny right now. I don't know what they list him at. I mean, I'd have to actually go look.
On Pro Football Reference, he is 208, 6'4", 218.
Yeah,
that's skinny, but you could bulk up. I mean, the NFL, you're going to bulk up. Leal did 20 pounds in like 6 weeks.
Yeah. I'd have to watch some more of his stuff from this past year. But yeah, the wingspan, I mean, he has like really long arms. I think he has like 32 and a half, 33-inch arms. But
yeah, so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's played a lot. He's played a lot of box safety. You know, he does pretty well against the run. I think he's pretty reliable tackler. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's what I remember when I watched him over the summer was that I trusted him, as a tackler. So there's a role for those guys.
How hard is that transition? Because it didn't work out with Marcus Allen. But yeah,
very. It's like hard. It's a lot harder than people realize, and that it goes back to what I just said about the block deconstruction. As a safety, when you're even sometimes as like a box safety, depending on your pre-snap alignment, you might not actually be in the run fit. Like as an inside linebacker, you're always going to be in the run fit. So having to take on blockers at the point of attack, climbing offensive linemen to the second level, because you got to think like. Even like him right now, who's 218, let's just say, even if he was able to get up to like 230, those offensive line, those interior guys, 310, 320, 330. I mean, you're giving up 80, 90 pounds. I mean, that's a lot of mass and bulk that you're giving up. Yeah. So it's hard. I mean, a lot of guys, that's also too, though, why like I really appreciate when I see guys that are at the strong safety position that can like play in the box and like take on blocks really well. I always try to like point that out because it's really rare for that type of arch type or body type too. So yeah.
All right. So not a move. Would be about it though. Depending on this is the part of this will work out for the Steelers because if they don't get Edmonds and KZ back, maybe you consider a safety in the middle of the rounds. I think they want that 3 safety look. I don't think they're going to give up on it. I don't really know what to expect out of Trey Norwood, but I don't think he's that guy, unfortunately. All right, next thing I want to talk about is Chris Carter. Our boy Chris Carter over on Locked On Steelers dropped a new reunion. I want to call it a different angle from what many people are talking about. Obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster is everybody's top of the list. Rejoin the Steelers, come back to Pittsburgh. First, did you see his tweet? And what did you think of the Valentine's Day gift to James Bradbury there?
I did see the tweet. I tried to stay off of social media. I almost muted the words Juju a couple of days ago because, man, it just everybody got a take, and it's just.
What is your take? This is your job. Our job is to give takes.
I think Juju is he loves the spotlight, man. Like, he can't help himself sometimes. It's not, like, I have defended him because I feel like a lot of the criticism that he got, like, over his past couple of years in Pittsburgh was, just unwarranted. But my stuff is normally just football related, man. I try to focus on the actual game itself, the shenanigans, the off the field, the TikToks and the tweets and stuff. That's just not my realm. I try to stay out of it as much as I can. But the original tweet was kind of funny. AJ Brown was kind of he seemed like he was really in his feelings.
Dude, he was pissed.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I don't know, like, if they handled it poorly, if the Eagles were like bitching about it and they were like, no, like, I get it. I don't know. It kind of just felt like just kicking when you're down. Like,
yeah,
just a little too soon.
When you win, you can talk shit. I mean, when you win and when you're up, But like the Jordan clip, it's easy to do all that talk when you're ahead, when you've already won.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is what it is. I don't really have too much more beyond that. But I do get frustrated sometimes because when I jump on my timeline, it seemed like some people either within like the Steelers fan base or just like people that get retweeted on my timeline, it just seems like too many people care about stuff that doesn't relate to anything that happens in between the lines of the game.
I would say that's like 85% of football fans.
And that's just something that I'll never be able to relate to, unfortunately.
No, but football has become much bigger. Football did this to themselves. You know what I mean? The NFL's goal is not to be a football game. It's to be the biggest business in the world. So that's why, the Super Bowl is 7.5 hours and that's why they have their own TV network that doesn't talk about football 85% of the time.
Yeah.
It is a great. I watched NFL Network on repeat today, actually, and I forgot that sometimes it's actually pretty good. All right, but Juju, that is a name that gets tossed out there. Javon Hargrave, which I don't think is a realistic option for the Pittsburgh Steelers, going to be too expensive. Everybody's talking about how he's got interest from here and there, and I just don't think he's going to take a pay cut to come back to Pittsburgh. And I don't think the Steelers are even going to look at him and say, hey, please take a pay cut to come back to Pittsburgh, because I just don't think that matches. The next name, again, dropped by Chris Carter, our boy over on Locked On Steelers. Bud Dupree seems to be a fit. Still on the Tennessee Titans, but expected to make or set to make $20 million this season. No way he's getting paid. They're definitely going to cut him as a cap casualty. Not a real great time in Tennessee since leaving the Steelers in 2021, 2 years ago. Do you see it as a possible return to kind of be the reverse of where he left, which was above Alex Highsmith? Now he'd step back in and kind of be that third guy for the Steelers. Didn't play bad the last 2 years he was in Pittsburgh.
I mean, I'm certainly down for that. I mean, I've talked a lot about trying to, secure some type of legitimate edge 3 guy for a long time now.
Yeah.
I'm tired of wasting snaps on guys that really have no business being on the field, and it would be cool. I just don't know. I don't know what Bud's market will be. I'm assuming he's not going to have a ton.
Dude, he can't have a big
He's
market.
even had trouble staying healthy in Tennessee, which has kind of led to some of his kind of struggles there. But if you look at Dupree, like his production actually on the field, he still has like a relatively decent pressure rate. It's down from his last couple of years in Pittsburgh, but he still hover around that 10% pressure rate. So I'm down with it. We know Bud can play the run. So, I mean, you like that too. It's kind of difficult to some of those edge 3 guys that you can get later in the draft, or, edge depth in general. Usually you only got either pass rusher or run defender. So
would you go there? Would you go draft middle of the draft before you went and signed a guy like, I mean, Dupree's going to be like, what, 29, 30 maybe? He's going to be 30 years old by the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Real quick, before I forget about this, Phantom,
Yes.
Go look up Trey Dean from Florida. That's the guy that I think kind of makes sense for what you're talking about with Skinner and getting a safety kind of in the middle or late rounds. Dean is a player that I kind of like from a skill set perspective. As far as Bud, I would be okay with bringing him back or the draft. Like, I think the Steelers, this is just my opinion, but I put this in my Highsmith article from like a week or two. I think they got to decide, like, is he part of the future or not? Like, I think you have to make a decision before the draft. If you think that Highsmith is an elite player, a foundational piece that you're comfortable giving 16, 17, 18 million a year, and you want to keep him in the fold, then I don't think that you can justify probably taking an edge rusher before like early day 3, late day 2. But I think if you're like, hey, we just want to see it for another year, we don't know if we're going to be able to afford him, we don't know where the team's financials are going to be at, then if you have second thoughts or maybe some question marks there, or if you want to pay him in general, I think you got to seriously think about potentially taking one on day 2, because
day 2
rookie edge rushers like typically don't do very well rushing the passer, and Pittsburgh's defense like revolves a lot around edge rushers getting to the quarterback. So, and you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into next year where you're like, saying, all right, we got to go edge rusher round 1 or bust, because you don't know if like next year's class is going to be as good as this year's class, which is really, really good, really deep. So you just don't want to put yourself in that position. That's why Dupree, I think, makes a lot of sense on like a 1 to 2 year deal, because like if he's interested and you can get him on a decent deal where maybe he's got like a $3 to $4 million cap hit in year 1, maybe like a $5-6 million cap hit next year, he could give you a guy that could potentially start if Highsmith walks, while you're also kind of transitioning to either a rookie you take this year or a rookie that you draft early on in the following year's draft. So it gives you a little bit of security. But
do you take a guy in the second round if you want somebody to replace Highsmith in a season? Are you waiting until day 2 to pick an edge rusher, or are you going one in the first 3 picks?
If it was me, and this is just me, if I knew that Highsmith's last year was going to be this year and like he was not going to be part of the long-term future, then I would take one probably with either 32 or 46, because there's going to be really good guys there. Guys that I've seen in that range, kind of most of like the big media guys that kind of seem to have more of a feel for like where the NFL stands, like BJ Ojolari. I'm a huge fan of him. Guys like that. It's interesting to see maybe some of the guys that could potentially be available, maybe make them think about it. But I would take one early. Like I said, it's the most important position for their defense, and it's a really good edge class. So,
all right. Do you let's go back to our boy Phantom here, dropping some good ones. What makes more sense? Bringing back Larry Ogunjobi or drafting a lesser proven, cheaper version of the exact same player like Mozzie Smith in the second round? I think you could go a number of ways with this one. It doesn't have to be Smith. It could be anybody in the first, and those 2 second round picks. I'm counting 32 as a first round pick. That's the last pick in the first round every other year. Do you go? I think maybe you do both. I wouldn't be opposed to both, especially because Larry, you're not getting Larry on more than like a 1, maybe a 2 year deal.
Yeah, I mean, he's asking a lot of the questions on stuff I just wrote about, so it's kind of good.
Yeah, very true. Actually,
I feel like I've got good
your
answers
articles
for you
last week.
Yeah, I feel like I've got good answers for you. I mean, it just depends on the market for Ogunjobi, and if you really think that he's going to be healthy. I mean, he really wasn't healthy. I don't think this year what percent he was playing at. Only he and the team really know that. I definitely think that there's going to be quality options. On day 2 of the draft, the interior defensive line class is all right. It's got some schematic fits. Guy that I like, Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. I think he makes a lot of sense. He played a lot of nose tackle with the Badgers defense this past year, but I think he's a better fit for like 3 tech. But he's improving as a pass rusher. He's pretty impactful run defender too. So he's another guy. Mozzie Smith, I like him as well. I don't know if he's a 3 tech though. I think that the Steelers may try to play him at nose tackle. But I mean, he can play up and down the front. I mean, sub package football, I think that you can 100% give him snaps like in the nickel where he's playing like over the guard or shading over the tackle and still rush the passer. Smith was a guy that I really enjoyed his tape. He wasn't what I thought he was going to be. He's obviously extremely athletic. He's not as he's not as much of a nose tackle that commands double teams more than he is just like incredibly disruptive against the run. Like he's got a, he's got pretty good an athleticism to him. Siaka Ika, which you just mentioned, he's more, I think, of the kind of take two, leave somebody free nose tackle. But Ika's production dropped last year, which was really weird. So
yeah, I think that it makes sense to do both. I think either way, like I'm seeing a lot of mocks where the Steelers take a guy at 17 and then double dip at 32. I don't know if I'm double dipping, but I wouldn't be opposed. Like if you spent a 17th pick on a really solid defensive lineman, I'm not upset about it. Like who's the dude from Iowa? There's two of them, maybe. The defensive lineman.
Jack Campbell's linebacker.
No.
Oh, you're talking about Luka.
Yes. Yes.
He's more. I think he's more edge defender though. If they took an edge defender in round 1, I think Steelers Twitter would light on fire.
Oh, they'd lose their mind. And Alex Highsmith would basically you might as well just go get a New Jersey because he got 365 days left.
My guy Nick on Twitter posted a screen cap of the mock draft that he did. He was like, I haven't done a mock draft in a while. He took Van Ness in the first round, which
I saw
full disclosure, Van Ness is going to go in the first round at some point.
Yes.
Some team's going to fall in love with him. The way that, his insane pass rush production on a per snap basis last year was eye-opening. Legit power. But anyway, he took Van Ness with his first pick at 17, and everybody was just he was roasting him. It was so funny. He deleted it, and it was like, all right, I got a better mock this time.
I saw. Did you? I commented on that one. I don't remember if it was the first one or the second one, but I was like, no, Roschon Johnson. Did you see that? The NFL.com. I forget who it was. It wasn't any of their like big names. Mocked Roschon Johnson to the Steelers at pick 80. The running back out of Texas. Yeah,
I
interesting.
Like Johnson a lot, but
the answer is
I like Johnson as a player, but I'm not sure the Steelers are going to be taking a running back in the 3rd round.
In the 7th round, it makes zero. You could go pick me up. I'm going to play as many snaps as Roschon Johnson would play for the Pittsburgh. No, not in the 3rd. Alex Highsmith, we're talking about paying $20 million as a 3rd round pick. You want to know what Roschon Johnson's going to be doing in 4 years? Averaging about 3 snaps a season. No, Jaylen Warren's worth $800,000 this season. No, the answer is no. That was the worst mock I've seen. But I could see. I mean, Vanessa's he's not bad to the Steelers 17. I wouldn't be opposed to an edge rusher even if they didn't sign Alex Highsmith by then, but they'll know, you know what I mean? Like the Steelers will have, even if the move doesn't happen, even if the contract is not signed by the draft, they will know that they're going to sign him. You know what I mean? Like they'll be like, okay, it's not going to happen today. We got to wait until June, but we're going to get a deal done with Alex, or at least it's promising that we're going to get a deal done with Alex so that they can approach the draft that way.
Yeah. I think you got to know before the draft. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yes. Do you think that you got to ink them before the draft? Because it's very rare that they get.
I just think that you have to know if that is going to be.
Yeah.
Like if they're of the mindset like Highsmith's a foundational piece, we want to keep him. We're content paying him market value, 16 to 18 million per year.
Yeah.
Dedicating that much of our cap space to the edge rushers. If he's that important, then I'm cool. Just make sure, but just be aware that like you've got to get it done before this, really before the season, because you don't want to put yourself in a bind, like I said. So
yeah, and then he goes out and has one ridiculous year, and he's worth $25 million, or somebody signs some crazy contract. Agreed, definitely agreed. All right, last thing I want to talk about. One more college guy here, DJ Turner, our boy Jeffrey. All I got is a first name Jeffrey, but our boy Jeffrey. Hit me up on email a couple of days ago. He was like, yo, love the pod. So shout out to you, Jeffrey. We appreciate that support. Very much so. Actually asked if he could come on an episode, and I told him, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm working on something so that we could get kind of like call-ins and figure that out. This offseason is a must. I'm hoping by like the end of next month, we have that in place, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But anyways, he wanted us to talk about DJ Turner, our Michigan cornerback. You are a low-key Michigan fan. Don't act like you're not. You're Duke fan. Who do you support? You're Duke football too, a little bit, I guess. And then you watch Michigan games on Saturday. You're just disgusting. You're just ugh. If you took your DNA out,
I watch pretty much. I watch
Nah.
pretty much everybody, college football wise, but
no, the exact words were, you know anything about this guy? Derek goes, yeah, I watched a lot of them live. I love watching Michigan.
Oh, I do like watching Michigan's defense. I do. I don't care as much for the running centric offense that they run offensively. But yeah, I've seen quite a bit of DJ Turner over the last couple of years.
All right, so let's talk about him. DJ Turner, our boy Jeff said the third or fourth round cornerback. Let's go a couple of ways here. First, just give me your overview. When you're watching DJ Turner, I think he had a pick last year, 2 picks the year before. That was Skinner that had 7 tackles for loss. So 3 picks in the last 2 seasons. I think 10 pass deflections last year for Turner. What do you see in him?
Yeah, I mean, first things first with Turner is he is an absolutely ridiculous athlete. Like he's listed like 6 foot, like 180 pounds. He's a Feldman's freak guy. So he's a guy that has a 4.28 40-yard dash and has clocked at like
4.28.
Yeah, he's a mover. I think that if I remember correctly, Feldman's article said that he clocked like over 23 miles per hour on the GPS, which is, again, you're moving. You're moving 23 miles an hour in pads. It's different type of speed.
Dude, our boy Jeffrey actually said it in the thing in the email. 23 miles. He round 4 clocked at 23 miles per hour. 6'2" lengthy corner. Yeah.
See, look, my guy Jeffrey doing his research. I like.
Yeah, he knew what was up.
In the chat. He's in the chat. The way that best way I can describe it is like, man, the accelerator on this dude is unbelievable. Like he can play in press coverage. I love the patience in press. He has really good footwork. Shows some good technique. He's patient at the line of scrimmage. Is good to like not open up his frame too quick. He understands like how to maintain his leverage. Something that I really noticed in the championship game and when they played Purdue. So their last 2 games this season, I watched those again today, actually, because we saw your question. He does a really good job understanding like down and distance and receiver splits. So I really like corners that like have the mental capacity to understand like what opposing receivers are trying to do to them in like those down and distance situations. But yeah, Turner's an incredible mover. Good change of direction, can click and close, flip his hips. It's really hard to stack him because, he's got that vertical speed. Only things that I'm like a little bit concerned about is the frame, like 180 pounds for corners, really, really slight. It shows because I think bigger receivers are going to be able to bounce him off at the top of routes and I don't know. It worries me a little bit about him playing the ball in the air and like contested catch situations. But he can play man, he can play zone. He's got experience like playing different techniques, playing off the ball and press. I like him. I don't think he gets to day 3 personally. I think
he's day 2.
I think I'm not sure he's going to be there at 80. But I think that's where you would have to take him. And then this is just my opinion. It's hard to we haven't seen testing numbers and I know that he's going to blow out the combine. So, but he's a really good kid. I think that he's a really good player. If you're looking for, speed at the cornerback position, and, pretty proportionate length as well, he's a good prospect. This corner class is loaded too. Like some of my favorite guys that I've watched, Turner, Julius Brents from Kansas State, like some of these guys are going to get pushed down the draft boards further than they probably should because of how many talented corners are going to go in the top 50 of the draft.
So that's where I was going next with this is you talk about these guys. I think Brent's impressed everybody at the Senior Bowl. Dude was a monster. I saw a highlight of him the other day on Twitter or something, and somebody's like, "Look at this guy," and I was like, "And talking
about the one where the ball didn't even get thrown in one-on-ones."
Yes, and I was like, "Whoo,
excellent job!" Smooth. If y'all watch that highlight, watch how his eyes are down.
Down, dude. Just follow the hip. Rule 1 of playing defense is
Yes,
watch the
it's
hips.
outstanding rep. Yeah, you don't see. I think it was Nagy that posted that. Yeah, you don't see very many quarterbacks pulling the ball down in one-on-ones.
Yes, that was
crazy rep. Yeah, Brents is a really talented, really talented dude. The length and way that he can move for his size is it's definitely different from what you expect from a cornerback like that.
So how long can the Steelers wait? Like if we just talked about possibly taking defensive line early, inside linebacker that might be on their radar. This is a loaded cornerback class. How long can the Steelers wait to draft a corner before you're like, okay, look at you missed? Like,
yeah, I mean, you can get starting quality guys probably into day 3 of this draft. I mean, I've watched probably in some capacity at least like multiple games of like 15 corners now. And I think that, there's a lot of guys, like I said, that are going to go like late day 2 that I think can be like early career or like early rookie contract contributors. And then, just guys that could develop into really good players. But Turner's a guy that I think kind of fits that bill. I think the Steelers I don't want to see them go past the 3rd round without taking a corner. I just think without a true developmental type of prospect on the roster right now, like you've got veterans and Cam Sutton, who I think will be back. You've got Levi Wallace. You got James Pierre. You've got some guys that have been around, but I want them to grab somebody that they can kind of mold and develop for more of a long-term approach. Because we've talked about this, Cincinnati, Jamar Chase, he's not going nowhere. Joe Burrow's not going nowhere. So you got to the division as of right now kind of goes through them, and you got to have the weapons on the perimeter to kind of combat their different skill types. Higgins, kind of a ball winner. Jamar Chase, the vertical yak threat. So getting a cornerback early on in the draft, I think, is imperative. But Turner, if he was just like 10, 15 pounds heavier, man, he would be even more impressive because, just taking on blocks, you'll see him get like kind of swallowed up. Like he's a shaky tackler sometimes. He missed a couple of tackles in the TCU game when they played them in the playoffs. But I think he's a good player though. He's just small. So
yeah, I saw highlights of Kai Blue Kelly and his tackling ability or lack thereof tackling ability.
Yeah, Tyler was talking about that on Twitter.
Oh, that was rough. That guy impressed me so much at the Senior Bowl to do that. Yeah.
Someone who is a good tackler, really physical at the point of attack, is Brents. That's one of the best things.
There you go. That might be the new guy. That might be the new Andrew Booth.
Yeah, I love the way he plays the run. He's awesome. He'll take on like pullers with physicality. He's shown propensity to play up a weight class, even though he is 200 pounds. So
yeah, and I'm starting to think that your guys, your Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, are not going to be there at 17. I don't think Witherspoon. I was watching something today, and on the bottom of the screen it was somebody's top 50, and Witherspoon was 5th, and I was like, "Who?" There's
he got a lot of fans in the community. He's a really good player.
That's what I'm saying. So you might have to wait a little while and say, hey, look, let's not rush things. Let's get this guy, and then we do this.
Hey, Jeff, one more thing before we get off the Michigan train here. Jeffrey, I'm assuming that either you are a Wolverines fan or you're just like really locked into the draft and already looking at day 2 corners, which I really appreciate. You're my kind of dude. If you haven't already, you need to go check. You need to look at Will Johnson from Michigan. Turner's a really good player, but the best corner prospect on Michigan's defense is Johnson, who's only a true freshman, but he played like his ass off this year. He's like 6'2", 195 pounds. Dude, I couldn't watch Michigan. Even when I was watching them again today, I could not watch Michigan without him showing up. So
Penn State fan. So he's just watching. He just saw Turner just smoke him or something, and then
I like it.
That was the end of that. Get out of here, dude. You're a Duke fan who watches Michigan football. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to like teams that people normally like. If we weren't Steelers fans, everyone would, if someone who isn't a Steelers fan looks at your resume, they would immediately go, this guy's trash. This guy's just the worst person. All right, let's answer this one and get out of here. I said him at 80 because there are multiple corners jumping into the second round. Projects, Brents, Forbes, Phillips, which you and Nick talked about Phillips the other day. Banks, etc. I feel like he might slip in to pick number 80. Do you think he's there? Do you think he's there in the third round? And if he is there, how many guys out of this list are you taking him above?
I haven't finished watching Forbes yet, but I watched him a decent amount live. Corner for me is all about I say this a lot with receivers too. It's just about flavor. Like what you want, what you're gonna ask them to do.
Yeah.
Like for example, someone like Turner, if I had a corner, say I had a bigger corner like that I trusted with physicality and I wanted a speed guy, like I would feel probably better about putting him on the other side rather than putting like maybe a different type of prospect like, Joey Porter Jr. And trying to build out your roster like that to attack like multiple different body types. I think I'm trying to think. I think Brent's, if I had to guess, I think Brent's and Turner probably go round 3. I think Banks goes round 2. I've only got 2 games of tape on him, so I really couldn't give you a firm like evaluation. Forbes, like I said, I haven't watched. Clark's going to be interesting, man, because he got some great film. I love the footwork, competitiveness, change of direction ability. He's got some really, really good film.
He's already sliding
ball skills like crazy. But he's just really small. I mean, that's just, it just is what it is. We talk about like thresholds and stuff, like different teams have certain thresholds for like height, for length, for weight. Guys like Phillips are not going to meet teams' thresholds for that. So he's going to be a little bit of an outlier, and he's played mostly on the perimeter, whereas like some teams may be wanting him to move inside. And I try to caution people with like just thinking that adjustment is super easy, like playing outside corner in college and then having to jump in, play the slot at the next level against better athletes, better offenses, better quarterbacks. It's not a 1-for-1 type of thing. It's completely different.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of people at the combine, like a lot of prospects at the combine last year, like Trent McDuffie, Marcus Jones from Houston, specifically about playing the differences in playing like outside and playing inside, trying to predict route concepts based on splits. Inside you got a lot more two-way goes. It's difficult. And it's part of the reason that my mock draft is going a certain way on Monday, because I think it's important. So
I'm about it. I like the cornerback talk. This is way more fun than talking about Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis 830 times in an offseason. Yeah. I will say,
if I never have to scout another bad quarterback class again,
dude, you're gonna have to scout another bad quarterback class.
I'm not. I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna retire.
That would be the end of it. Could you imagine? Be like, I leave when Kenny leaves. You could. That would be. You talk about putting some faith on somebody. That could either be a very long career or a very, very short career.
Yeah.
All up to Kenny Pickett. All right. We're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure to find all of mine and Derek's work on allsteelers.com. Derek has a scouting report dropping tomorrow, but a mock draft, first mock draft of the offseason, dropping Monday morning, 7 a.m. So big deal, big things. Make sure to check that out on allsteelers.com. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.